Let's start with what Pi Network actually accomplished here. On January 22nd, they completed the Stellar Protocol version 25 upgrade across their entire mainnet. If you're not familiar with what that means, here's the translation. They fundamentally restructured how the network handles privacy, security, and data architecture. This isn't a cosmetic update. This is foundational blockchain engineering. According to the technical documentation coming from the Pi core team, version 25 specifically prepares the network for zero-knowledge proof integration. Zero-knowledge proofs are one of the most sophisticated privacy technologies in cryptography. They allow you to prove something is true without revealing any underlying information. Think of it like proving you have money without showing your bank account. That's zero-knowledge tech. But here's where Pi did something differently. Before deploying to Mainnet with over 40 million users, they stress-tested the upgrade on testnet 2. During testing, they pushed the network to handle over 7 million block production per session, a 75% increase from the previous baseline of 4 million blocks. That's not theoretical. That's actual data showing the network can handle massive scale increases without crashing. Why does that matter? Because most blockchain projects rush upgrades to Mainnet, cross their fingers, and pray nothing breaks. Pi took the engineering-first approach. They identified potential bottlenecks, simulated heavy traffic, measured performance under stress, and only then deployed live. That's the difference between a project that's serious about infrastructure and a project that's serious about marketing. The security improvements in version 25 also strengthened the overall data handling architecture. Specifically, the upgrade enhanced cryptographic protocols and improved how transactions are validated across the network. For a blockchain that's aiming to become the first mainstream adoption platform, security isn't optional. It's existential. Now, this is where it gets genuinely interesting. Simultaneously with the protocol upgrade, Pi launched expanded features in the App Studio, and this is where the narrative shifts from technical infrastructure to mainstream adoption pathway. The no-code payments feature is the real game changer here. Previously, if you wanted to build an app on Pi that accepted Pi payments, you needed to understand API integration, smart contracts, or at minimum, basic coding. That locked out 99% of potential creators. The new approach? You literally describe what you want. Like, I want users to pay 5 Pi for premium access, and the studio builds the integration for you. It's visual, it's intuitive, it's designed for someone who's never written code in their life. But Pi went further. They introduced ad-supported deployment. If you don't have enough Pi tokens to deploy your app, you can watch ads instead. Let me be clear about what that means strategically. Pi removed the financial barrier to entry and the technical barrier to entry. You don't need capital. You don't need coding knowledge, you just need an idea and 30 minutes. This is fundamentally different from how blockchain development works today. On Ethereum you need ETH for gas fees, you need Solidity knowledge, you need a 6-figure salary to hire developers. Pi is saying, nope, we're going a different direction entirely. The Creator Rewards program makes this even more interesting. Pi is hosting an event that compensates the first 1,000 qualified people who successfully build functional apps inside App Studio. That's not just incentive alignment, that's basically saying, we will pay you to use our infrastructure. For a network trying to bootstrap developer adoption, that's a legitimate strategy. On January 22nd, the 15.8 million participant mainnet governance vote happened. Let's, contextualize that number. That's larger than the population of many countries. The Ethereum DAO has roughly 300,000 active governance participants. Solana's governance token holders are in the hundreds of thousands. Pi's vote drew 15.8 million people to the network simultaneously. The app briefly experienced slowdowns, and here's what's critical. Pi's community leaders immediately explained what was actually happening. They said this wasn't a failure, it was proof of concept. The network held up under the simultaneous load of 15.8 million voting transactions. In the blockchain world, that's essentially a stress test result. Most protocols would pay expensive consultants millions of dollars to simulate that scenario. Pi did it with actual users, actual voting stakes, and actual data. The message coming from the community wasn't, wow, our app crashed. It was actually, look how many people actually use this network. That's a completely different narrative than what you're seeing in other projects. Pi isn't hiding scale problems. They're publishing them as evidence of network adoption. Now, let's address what everyone in the community is actually obsessed about. 150 million Pi tokens are approaching unlock. That's a massive number on paper, and yes, increased supply without proportional demand increase typically creates selling pressure. It's basic economics. But here's the strategic context that matters. Pi's messaging from leadership, developers, and community advocates has been remarkably consistent. They're saying supply dynamics matter less than utility development. and they're backing that up with infrastructure and tooling investments. Think about it this way. If Pi released all 150 million tokens onto exchanges tomorrow but still had zero real apps, zero real use cases, and zero real payments happening on the network, that unlock would create a bloodbath, price would crater. But if those tokens unlock simultaneously with thousands of new apps launching on the App Studio, with real merchants integrating Pi payments, and with legitimate utility starting to emerge, the narrative completely changes. The unlock becomes irrelevant relative to the adoption curve. Pi's core strategy seems to be build utility faster than tokens unlock. That's not guaranteed to work, but it's at least a coherent strategy that shows they understand the challenge. Alright, if you're watching this and you've got Pi holdings, or you're considering getting involved with the Pi ecosystem, you absolutely need to understand this technical depth. Most YouTubers cover Pi with surface-level Pi Moon or Pi Doom analysis, but there's actual engineering happening here. If this breakdown helped you understand what Pi's actually building, smash that like button right now. It tells the YouTube algorithm this content matters, and it helps us push deeper technical analysis to more people who actually want it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. When Pi App Studio starts generating real adoption metrics, or when the token unlock creates volatility, you want to know immediately. We break things down here that nobody else is covering. Let's keep going. If Pi successfully executes on this vision, here's the scenario. Millions of everyday users start building micro-apps inside the ecosystem. A small merchant in Lagos builds a payment app for local traders. A creator in Manila builds a tipping mechanism for her community. A developer in São Paulo builds a gaming app with Pi as the payment layer. These aren't hypothetical, they're exactly the use cases Pi's creator program is incentivizing. Once real payments start flowing through the network, the fundamental value proposition changes. Pi shifts from "this is a crypto project I'm speculating on" to "this is the network where I actually transact." That's the adoption inflection point. But here's where I need to be honest. Execution risk is massive. Having great tools doesn't automatically create developer adoption. Having privacy upgrades doesn't automatically create demand for the network. Having accessibility features doesn't automatically mean people will use them instead of centralized alternatives. So, Pi's biggest competition isn't really other blockchains, it's actually the path of least resistance. Think about WhatsApp, Stripe, Venmo. These tools already work just fine for most people. Convincing billions of folks to switch over to Pi, well, that takes more than just better infrastructure. Pi has to be so much better, like dramatically better, that the hassle of switching actually feels worth it. Honestly, that's a pretty high bar, but Pi's betting it can clear it. We'll just have to wait and see. Alright, so here's what I want you to walk away with. Pi Network just completed a significant technical upgrade, launched legitimately impressive accessibility tools, and demonstrated network scale that most crypto projects can't even imagine. Is it guaranteed to result in mass adoption? No. Is the token unlock coming regardless? Absolutely. But, the infrastructure and positioning they're building right now is genuinely different. The team isn't chasing short-term hype, they're building long-term adoption pathways. Whether it works or not, that's the question the next 6 to 12 months will answer. Thanks for watching TJ Crypto World. If this deep dive into what Pi's actually building helped you separate signal from noise, please drop a comment below. Are you bullish on Pi's adoption strategy, or do you think centralized solutions win this battle? And before you leave, check out our latest video on blockchain adoption metrics. I break down what actually separates failed projects from successful ones. The link is pinned in the comments. Stay technical, stay analytical, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.